All right, to kick things off, I've got a little entertainment. So hopefully this works. But this should take about 3 minutes. I promise it will be humorous. And hopefully if you're doing a PowerPoint at one of these presentations, yours actually works right. All right. This should only take 3 minutes. Here you go.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? A tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone, raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone seen this before?
And you know something? You know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. We're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Ballmer!
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Okay. Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
All right, so outside of pure entertainment value, and I actually felt really bad for that poor girl. I can't imagine what was going through her head at that moment in time. One of the reasons why we're here is to try to make sure that none of you are the bore, the butcher, the wild man, or the dingling. And so we really want to make sure you guys are out there representing yourselves the best way possible, as well as the organization. To kind of kick things off here, I have a little exercise I'd like for all of you to do. In front of you is a index card. Do me a quick favor. On the lined part of it, I want you just to write your name, your email address, and your phone number. And there's a reason why I'm having you do this. All right. The second part is to flip that card over, and with that same pen, I want you to write the very first thing that comes to your mind when you think about public speaking. And for an example, you could write excited. You could write worried, nervous, scared, or how about scared blankless? Whatever you want, whatever's coming to mind, I want you to write it on that card. All right, what we're going to do is at the end of the presentation, I'm going to collect all of these. And what I want to do is a couple things. First of all, we need to create best practices. And to do that, I want to hear from you guys after you go out and do your first presentation. If you wrote worried or nervous, I want to know what you did prior to that presentation to calm those nerves. Or if you were worried about the presentation, what you did to actually prepare for the presentation. Or if you were just scared, what you did to get over that fear. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be able to build on some of the tools for all of you. So the next time you go to give a presentation, you can actually access some of the other thoughts and ideas that other members have had to give the presentation effectively. The second reason why I wanted to do this is to put you in the public speaking mindset, into the mindset in this room. How many of you just spent the last 6 hours with Natalie Choate? Chances are you're a little bit overwhelmed by great IRA information and everything else. Well, when you leave that presentation, I want you to now be thinking about public speaking. And the best way to do that at the very beginning of any of your presentations is to get people to start thinking about your topic right off the bat. Why they're there and why being there is so important to them. So what I did is I had you think to yourself for a second, why am I here? I'm worried about this. I'm nervous about it. I'm excited. That is going to be very important for you to start to kind of think about the presentation today. The other thing is that you have to be thinking a little bit about this. You know, you're going to be out there talking about personal finance related topics. Chances are you're going to be speaking to, in some cases, maybe more of a novice type of group of people. So getting them to not think about the troubles at home or think about the fact they just left their job and their boss has chewed them out for screwing something up or what have you is going to be really, really important because personal finance for a lot of people can be kind of a scary, tricky topic. And so you need to get them in the mindset where they're actually thinking about personal finance. So let's give you're giving a presentation about retirement planning. You want them thinking about their own personal retirement planning needs. And so that way when they're listening to your presentation, they're relating to it. So this is the purpose of that exercise. And I know that probably some of you are trying to wonder what the hell all this is. In the presentation, I'm going to talk about practice and how you can over-practice and overthink things. I strongly believe that really the day of the presentation, don't even think about it. You've already rehearsed, you've already done your practice. I think it's good to do something completely mindless. So Chris, who's behind the camera, he and I started comparing artistic abilities. I actually learned how to draw smiley faces from Mad Magazine. And he actually drew Bill the Cat from, I think it's Bloomberg County or Bloom County or whatever it is. So we kind of started doodling some things. And it was just completely mindless. It was just kind of fun. So I wanted to leave this up here as an example of, you know, doing something mindless. Read a newspaper, read a book, whatever it is. All right, so the rundown for today's presentation is going to be pretty simple. Part 1, the art of public speaking. Part 2, how to be an effective speaker. We're going to talk about preparation, delivery, and then after the show. Part 3 is leveraging and representing NAPFA, which is going to be very important. Part 4, marketing the Speakers Bureau, and then finally we're going to have Q&A. During the Q&A, it could be any kind of question about my presentation, about standards. It could be anything for Barb about the actual structure of the Speakers Bureau. So let's jump into the art of public speaking. When I was in college, I had to read a book by Dale Carnegie. It was written in 1915 called The Art of Public Speaking. How many of you guys ever read that? It's like 450 pages. It's just, you know, it's kind of written in 1915, so it's a little choppy. But this is, I think, actually a very interesting quote. In facing your audience, pause a moment and look them over. 100 chances to 1, they want you to succeed. For what man is so foolish as to spend his time, perhaps his money, in the hope that you will waste his investment by talking dully? I think that's a very important thing to think about. Nobody in a room that you're speaking at wants you to fail. And that's the fear of public speaking, is that you're going to make an ass out of yourself. Put that out of your mind. Nobody is there to see you fail. They're there for something that's going to help them. They're looking for information. So if you can approach it as doing a public service and not worry about your own appearance and stumbling over yourself, you're going to succeed. As long as you help one person in that room, you've done your job. And then the human brain, this is actually great. George Jessel, actor, singer, songwriter. This is a great quote. The human brain starts working the moment you are born and never stops until you stand up to speak in public. Here's another one. Every speaker has a mouth and arrangement rather neat. Sometimes it's filled with wisdom, sometimes it's filled with feet. I love that one. So, what is the purpose of public speaking? You know, and this is a question that you have to ask. Why am I going to do this? So hopefully all of you just didn't sign up willy-nilly to attend this session today, thinking, hey, you know, it might be fun. There needs to be a greater purpose for why you want to do this. Is it to inform? Do you want to help educate people about proper personal finance? Is it to enlighten? There's a lot of misinformation out there. People are overwhelmed by the information that's available. Do you want to help correct people's thinking? How about is it to persuade? To persuade them to take action. So when it comes to NAPFA, do we want to try to get people to go out and find a fee-only financial planner? I'd like that. But is that what your purpose is? How about is it to impress? This is to impress the people that you're talking to, impress them about your own personal knowledge and your presentation ability. So it's really important to kind of be thinking about why you are there and why you're doing this. So in some initial guidelines on being artful, and we're going to kind of elaborate on some of these things throughout the presentation, but understand the audience mindset. Like I said, some of these people, if it's a morning presentation, they just left their house, they've got 2 young kids, speaking from experience, and I know what my mornings are like. They're absolutely crazy, and all I'm thinking about is, oh crud, I got to get my daughter to swim lessons, then I got to do this. You got to get them out of the mindset that they're currently in and put them in the chair in front of you listening to what you're saying. It's really important. Show empathy. Be thinking about their feelings and what they're feeling at that moment in time. Let's say you're speaking, this is a good example. Let's say you're speaking to a union. Where's Ted? Ted, there he is. He's in Michigan. Let's say he gets hooked up with the UAW local, and he gives a presentation about managing your 401k. Well, there might be some pretty pissed off people in the room about what's going on. He needs to try to empathize with that. Recognize the audience's knowledge level. Not everybody is going to be as proficient as the next group. You might be speaking to a local Rotary where there's some business owners and they have to be a little more savvy. You might be speaking at a local library where it's just come one, come all. So you got to be thinking about the knowledge level. Never underestimate the power of practice. How many of you sing in the shower or sing in your car? You do. Jim does. Well, I mean, come on. Everyone does it. Even I dabble a little bit at times, even though I told... You caught me. Robin's going to be... Instead of doing that, just try rehearsing some of your lines in your head, how you're going to actually frame certain things. I do that all the time. I mean, I was doing that a week ago when I was thinking about this presentation. How am I going to say this? So it's really important to practice. Know your knowledge limits and stay within them. I would say it's a pretty safe assumption. I mean, you guys all are comprehensive financial planners according to NAPFA's guidelines, correct? But I think some of you probably are more proficient in investments where somebody else is more proficient in estate planning or family finances or divorce planning. If that is your comfort zone, stay in it. Don't try to be an expert in all things. And I'm also going to say this. This little training here is very good to be keeping in mind the next time you're talking to a reporter. All right? There's a lot of carryover from public relations, working with the media, to what we're talking about here. And I always preach to stay in your comfort zone. Talk about what you know. Don't try to be smarter than you hope you are. Let's see here. Speak visually. This is really important, especially for a consumer audience. When I talk about speaking visually, I'm talking about painting a picture. You want people to be able to visualize themselves in that specific situation. So if you're talking about divorce planning, or you're talking about managing your 401k, give an example of a time that you worked with somebody and they completely screwed up their 401k. They took a loan, they didn't do. Give a real life example, because somebody in that room is going to relate to that story. It's the same thing when you're talking to the media, especially consumer press. They want to hear a real life example because that's what their readers are going to relate to. So, don't let visuals overwhelm. It's really important in the presentation that you don't have 900 different things going on the screen. Have your words. You can have one simple little graphic or whatever that helps kind of tell the story from in terms of the content that's on that slide. That's it. Don't try to throw too much into a slide with all kind. This is my biggest pet peeve when it comes to presentations, are the zooming sounds that people have on their presentations and all the stuff people have, all these things flying in. And just keep it simple. Just keep the stuff up there. That's why you'll notice I didn't even have like the fades and all that stuff to try to bring these things up individually. Stick the information on the screen. Just that's it. Let's see here. Use color in your voice. Inflection. Using some color. The one thing, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, is the idea of passion. I think, and look, I've been working in the financial services industry for, what, about 12, 13 years. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 6 years with NAPFA, is this right here is the most passionate group of financial planners you're going to find in the industry. True? I think all of you would agree. You guys are passionate about what you do for a living. You're passionate about working with your clients. You're passionate about helping them solve their problems. You're passionate about educating. Make that passion come out. Be excited about being there. If you're going to sit back like Ben Stein talking about the Holly Smoot Act or whatever, and just, kind of boring the hell out of people, that's not going to get the message across. Passion is what sells. And it's the same thing, again, working with the media. If you can be passionate about your topic, you're going to get the receiver, the person on the other end, to feel that passion too and to get excited about it. Don't preach. Don't get on your soapbox, and I think I might actually be doing it right now. But don't preach. Try. It's funny. I actually feel like I'm kind of a hypocrite here. Don't preach. Don't make people feel like you're belittling them. Try to have a conversation. Engage them a little bit. If you want to make it more interactive, where you actually ask questions. I've already done it once or twice where I've asked a question. Get them to actually engage with you. And then work the room. Engage the audience. One thing, and I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes, but it's the idea of, again, this is the anti-Balmer thing here, where you need to almost envision a triangle on the floor. All right? You've got 3 points. Your points are here. Very simple. You're kind of in amongst the people. You're talking. You're looking. And then as you're going, you kind of move over to this side of the room. You're having conversation. And so you're not going to, almost like you're doing the waltz, but you're going to come over here. Just kind of gradually be walking around the room a little bit. That's how you engage this side. That's how you engage this side. That's how you engage everyone right down the middle. So envision that there's a triangle. Just work the room. Engage the audience. Now, how to be an effective speaker. This is all about the preparation, developing the content. I said this before. Stay in your comfort zone. Don't try, if you're going to be one of the writers, don't try to write content for a presentation that you really are not comfortable with or that you really don't know that much about. Research, research, research. If there's anything we all know in this industry, things change. Laws are constantly changing. Rules are constantly changing. Do your research and do it often because things are going to eventually have to be changed. Create an outline of the presentation and get detailed. When I was working on the presentation for this, I didn't just say, okay, we're going to talk about how to develop a presentation. I started actually then mining it down more and hitting kind of the subtopics. And then is there a story that we can interject into the different pieces? Try to come up with a detailed outline and just work off of it. Ensure consistency in the content. This is not just in the actual content that people are going to see on the slide, but what you're saying. You want to make sure what you are saying is consistent with what's there, with what people are going to be reading in the news, and so on. Identify areas where you can paint a picture. In that outline, I think in every presentation, you should try to find 2 or 3 instances in different pieces of the content where you can paint that picture. And spread them out. Don't have them all at the very front of the presentation, the very back of the presentation. Have one in the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. Because people are going to relate then throughout the presentation. Identify areas where a visual will help. Again, I don't think you need tons of visuals. And God, please, stay away from big charts and graphs and all that stuff. The average consumer is going to be in that room is going to look at that, and they're going to gloss over. So try to find maybe a nice picture or something that kind of depicts what the message is that you're trying to convey. Plan for something memorable. My hope is that this little index card piece is going to be kind of a lasting memory for you. So when you walk out of here, I want you to be constantly thinking about, all right, I'm nervous as hell about speaking, but I did learn this, this, and this in the presentation. Oh, and by the way, afterward, I'm going to get some follow-up from Ben to find out what I did to help fix that nervousness. So I want there to be a lasting memory. This is what people are going to remember after you've actually left the room. Practice makes perfect. But remember, you can over-practice. You can be overthinking all of this. But you want to make sure you're getting the practice in. And then do last-minute research. Just because the presentation that's not available on the website and, the F word, let's say that that presentation is out there and available. Well, let's say it's out there now, but the SEC actually extends the fiduciary standard for us. Well, I think that's kind of an important piece that's going to be added to the presentation later. So be thinking about what new content needs to be added or updated. And then I think it's also very important to notify Barb or Karen that, hey, this is out of date because of X, Y, and Z, and send them the updates, because we need to make sure that content is up to date. Preparation, visual, presentation. Now, we set a template for all these presentations. What you're looking at is actually the template for the Speakers Bureau. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the NAPFA branding and so on in a little bit, but that color blue is the same color blue that's on the logo. And it's on that big banner that's hanging there that says Champion for the Public. We wanted to frame this entire thing around Champion for the Public, because NAPFA is the champion for the public. It's part of our long-term grand goal. So this is going to be very important in terms of the branding. Simplicity is key. Talked about that. Visuals should be clear. If you're going to tweak a presentation, make sure, and Karen's going to talk about Karen already kind of talked about this. We'll talk about it again. Make sure you get sign-off on any kind of tweaks that you might make to the actual design and layout, because again, we need there to be consistency across everything. One of my problems is that when somebody takes a little visual and it's grainy, so if that little man there with the puzzle piece was real grainy, or was tiny, it was just kind of distorted, it just looks amateurish. I don't think NAPFA's amateurish. I don't think any of you are amateurs. You guys are all professionals. You're all seasoned professionals. Let's make it look high quality. So we need to make sure the visuals are clear. Layout needs to be easy to follow. Again, just make sure that your layout and your structure has a good flow, that people are actually able to follow along. And that's even more than just your visual there, but it's all in terms of how you're actually presenting the content. Let's see, ensure presentations be reviewed for content. We can get more into that later. And again, ensure presentations be reviewed for the actual design. Yeah?
Does anybody else find those pictures along the bottom really distracting?
You do?
Yeah, I look at the pictures. I don't
Who else finds that distracting? Holy moly, really?
Well,
actually,
I spend time looking at those pictures, and I start thinking about where did they get them? I think I might have one of those pictures.
Yeah,
over there.
it's all stock photography. It's all stock photography.
That little couple over there, that's
well,
like one of
this
those realtor ads, and I'm just so involved in their lives. And
yeah, this original template was actually part of the consumer webinar series that we've been doing for like the last 18, 20 months, whatever it's been. And so if that's general consensus, I'm happy to chop those out. Is everyone pretty much feel the same way?
I mean, I was nice on the first slide. Yeah.
But then it got to be too much throughout?
Well, you really do spend a lot of time looking because they're so interesting.
Quick poll, show me a raise of hands. Who wants to ditch the 4 pictures or the 5 pictures at the bottom? It's a done deal. We're going to get rid of them. All right. There we go. So we talked about the design of that. All right, good. All right. Let's talk about practice makes perfect. Vocal delivery, the 3 C's, clear, concise, and color. Clear. That means you're speaking clear. You're enunciating the words. You're actually opening your mouth and not mumbling. That's going to be really important. And if you're in a room, chances are there's going to be a microphone. A lot of these rooms are going to be, there's not going to be a microphone. So people may not be able to hear you clearly in the back row. So you need to be able to speak up and speak clearly. Otherwise, if somebody's hearing something and they think you said one thing, but you actually said something else, it's misinformation. That's actually a problem in working with the media. Is if you're not speaking clearly, you're not actually opening your mouth and saying what you intend to be saying, you're going to get misquoted. That's one of those issues there. Concise. Keep what you're saying, slim down. Speak in very concise chunks. I'm going to actually talk a little diarrhea of the mouth at one point, but you want to speak, tightly. And then color. This is inflection. Putting some tone in your voice. Not doing the Ben Stein talking about economics. You want to use some color in your voice because it helps make statements and make points. Nonverbal communication, this is the body parts, face, hands, back, and feet. Your face. I used to have a problem with this one advisor about 10 years ago, 9, 10 years ago. I can't remember when it was. But anyway, he had this problem when he would speak on camera. He always would go like this. He'd always look up and to the left. That is an indication that person is accessing the creative side of their brain, which means they're lying. So you have to pay attention to your face. One thing I will always say is put a smile on it. If you're nervous, you've got any kind of nervous energy, it's adrenaline. Smile. Smile just lightens the mood a little bit, and it makes people want to smile at you too. So that's a big thing there. Hands. When working with the media, if you're ever on TV, how many of you guys have ever been on TV? I know you have. I know Barb has too. You've got this thing called a gesture box. Your gesture box is from about here, not in front of your face, but from your shoulders out to your sides and down to your waist. This is your box. Your gestures are always in this area. If you start doing this, you start doing the Steve Ballmer from Microsoft where you're jumping around like a wild man, it's going to get lost. So you have your gesture box. This is where you make all your hand motions and everything else. So watch where your hands are. Your back. People are talking to you. People are hearing you this way. People are not doing this. You're turning around to look at something. Always keep at least most of your body facing forward. And then your feet. We talked about the triangle. It's really important. And don't do a whole lot of dancing around. And be careful of a lot of this. Seriously, it's going to be like on a cruise ship when you see the backs of people's heads and they're swaying. So no swaying. Just watch your feet. Let's see. Nonverbal communication, your clothes. Wear something comfortable. How many of you wear suits every day? All right. How many of you can't stand wearing a suit and you feel uncomfortable, tight, and... All right, well, that's like me. I think the last time I wore a suit was probably about 3 years ago. Don't wear it. If you're not comfortable wearing a suit, if that's not you, don't wear the suit. I know you probably want to look professional and everything. Don't worry about it. If that's not you, if that's not your personality, don't do it. If it's an open collar shirt, wear an open collar shirt. If it's a sport coat, an open collar shirt, do that. Don't feel like you've got to primp yourself up into something that you're not. Because what happens also if one of those people in the audience actually becomes a client, and then you're not wearing that suit. All of a sudden, you're in the open collar, you're sitting there, and so don't wear it. Very simple. Hygiene. If you feel like you got to get a haircut or run a brush through your hair before you get up there, or blow your nose or something before a presentation, just do it. It's really important that you try to feel clean and put together. I actually got a haircut about a week ago, knowing I was going to give this. I feel a lot better because my hair was like out like this before. So, hygiene. Just make sure you feel clean. And I'll tell you what. Whenever I get a haircut, I always feel like $100 afterward. I feel like $100. I just feel good. So, pay attention to that. Calming your nerves. How many of you on your card wrote that you're a little nervous or scared or worried? Really, only a couple people. How many of you actually have done public speaking before? God, so I'm actually preaching to the choir. All right, you guys can all go home now. That's fine. Just calming your nerves. Again, nerves, it's just adrenaline. And so you want to try to push that down a little bit and just be calm. A couple things that I always tell people to do is arrive early to set up. Get comfortable with your surroundings. Don't arrive. I mean, I know that some of you live in Chicago and other big cities. Just make it a point to leave early enough to get there, to kind of scout out the landscape a little bit, to familiarize yourselves with the room. If you show up 2 seconds before that presentation, then your engine's going to be going. You're going to be a little bit worried. Just get there, scout it out, get comfortable with the surroundings. Chit-chat with some attendees before speaking. I think I just hit that button. No, I didn't. Okay. Chit-chat with people before speaking. It's much easier to talk to people you know, to people you might actually call acquaintances, than to complete strangers. Luckily for me, I know a lot of the people around this room, so it's easy. Just make an effort to get out there and shake some hands, talk to people, ask them where they're from, get to know them a little bit. Because then when you're actually in the presentation, you're able to make eye contact with Chris and Barb and others and actually feel like you've got a little bit of a connection. You're actually able to help them. Instead of being up there kind of like, oh God, I'm talking to a bunch of strangers and I don't know what the hell they're going to think about me and everything else. So chit-chat. Breathing is good for the brain. It's very good for the brain. It pumps oxygen to the brain. You're thinking clearly, and it's not all about the nerves. So breathe. And that's before, you have breathing exercise. Anyone guys do breathing exercises or meditation? Good. Do it all beforehand. Get it all out of you. Pump all that oxygen into the brain. Feel good. It's really important. It's very easy to speak very fast. Get ahead of yourselves. Pausing for a minute, not the big dramatic pause that some of you might be thinking. Just taking a pause for a second, taking a breath will calm you down. Stay away from caffeine. It's very easy to think, I'm going to go pound a Red Bull beforehand to get myself all energized. Don't do it. I say no caffeine 2 hours beforehand. No caffeine, no coffee, nothing. 2 hours beforehand. Why do you need to feed that adrenaline rush more than what you're already going to have? So stay away from caffeine. Exercise the body and the mind. One thing I think is very good is if you're a walker, for instance, or enjoy doing the treadmill or lifting weights, whatever it is, go and do that. It relieves stress like you can't believe. So, even if you're at the hotel, even if you're not even planning, even if you're not a big, exerciser, just go out for a walk that day. Just clear your mind. Don't even think about this. Don't think about the presentation. Drink water, but not too much. And also, drink lukewarm water. There's nothing worse than feeling like you got to pee while you're doing it, because then you're doing the dance. You're doing the dance while you're nervous, and that's not good. But also, if you're going to drink some water, sip lukewarm water. Not hot water, because you don't want to scald yourself. And you also don't want to drink really cold water, because it tightens the vocal cords. So just sip some nice lukewarm water during your presentation. Smile, 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 smile. It makes people feel like they can, relate to you. Makes them feel a little more comfortable. You don't look like this, tight financial advisor who's going to preach to you about X, Y, and Z. Again, you want them to feel comfortable. And also remember, no one is perfect. There's no great speaker. There's a couple good ones out there, but there's no perfect speaker. That's why a lot of these big presenters are constantly working on their craft. They're always trying to find a newer and better way to present certain content. No one is perfect. Michael Hall, author of Secrets of Personal Mastery, says, give yourself permission to be gloriously fallible. I think that's right. Because you're going to learn from those mistakes. You're going to learn from failing. I know I did growing up. So use it as an opportunity to constantly grow and learn. All right, delivery. Content is half the battle. Same thing when working with the media. You could have the world's greatest content. You could have the best position possible on a certain topic. If it's delivered in a way that's just not going to resonate, it's going in one ear and out the other, completely over their heads. So you've got to really be thinking about the delivery of your content. Bring it to their level. Again, use a color, use inflection in your voice. Help them connect. That's the biggest thing. You don't want them just to be hearing you. You want them to actually be listening. Active listening. They're actually thinking about what you are saying, and they're relating to it. They're trying to find a way to relate to it. Avoid confusing jargon. You guys are a bunch of financial advisors. You guys are full of jargon and technical terms and stuff. Leave it at home. Leave it at the office. Especially for a real general consumer audience, try to take the content that could be a little bit confusing and put it on their level. Passion sells. This, to me, is the biggest takeaway I want all of you to have. Is just that be passionate. That is the biggest, that's the most effective thing you can take away from here, is to be passionate when you speak. Because it shows that you love what you do. It really does. And it's infectious. If you're passionate about it, you're going to get people to also feel a little bit of excitement about what you're talking about. A horrible disease, diarrhea of the mouth. This is the constant rambling that people do. They want to, especially for financial advisors. What do? You guys are sitting there talking to people, and you feel like you got to qualify certain things. You got to keep talking to kind of back up your point. You got to say, well, just stop. Just stop. Say what you want to say and move on. Staying on the topic, saying too much, and be confident in the term, I don't know. Say, I don't know. Don't try to invent things in your head to try to make yourself, again, sound smarter than you might actually be. And I know you guys are all very smart people. But if you're not proficient in a specific topic, don't answer the question. Just don't. Here's the thing you can do instead. Offer to find out the answer for them. What are you doing right there? You're giving yourself a touch point on a potential client after the fact. Go up and say, hey, look, I do want to answer that question for you, Chris. Why don't you give me your card, and I'll get the information for you, and I'll give you a call next week. What's the harm in that? Gives you an opportunity to market yourself directly to somebody. And remember your nonverbal communication. It's such a big deal in terms of how you're presenting yourself visually. Now, after the show, this is the Q&A. This is an opportunity for you to see what they have learned. this is an opportunity for you to perfect your craft. If you've got a great presentation, you're asking, during the Q&A, you might get a whole bunch of questions about a specific aspect of that presentation. What does that tell you? You know that you need to turn around and think about your presentation and try fine-tuning certain points so you can actually answer those questions for people during the presentation. Opportunity to expand your knowledge base. You're going to hear new things that you're going to want to research and potentially put together presentations for. Only answer general questions. You're going to get questions. We see this all the time with the Kiplinger call-in. Who does the Kiplinger call-in? Have you guys gotten some of these people on the phone? They're like, well, my 401k account has X dollars, and this is what I need to do. That's way too detailed, way too specific. And you don't really want people necessarily getting into that detail in that audience. So if it's a general question about whether or not you should take a loan from your 401k, that's great. That's fair game. But don't answer specific questions. Again, this is an opportunity for you to market yourself and say, you know what, why don't you see me afterward? I'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one about this. And then when you get them one-on-one, talk to them. You're opening up a door for you to potentially get business. So be careful with that. Only answer general questions. Address specific questions later. I talked about that. I do not know is okay. I cannot say that enough. It's the same thing when working with the media. And I know this is kind of been billed as media training also, but I really wanted to focus on the public speaking aspect. When you're working with a reporter, I just want to throw this out there, and you say, I don't know, you offer to get that answer for them, or do yourself a favor and NAPFA a favor and refer them to another member of NAPFA who you know is really proficient in that topic. This gives you an opportunity to connect them with other NAPFA members so they can further expand their knowledge of the knowledge that NAPFA members have. So always be interested in kind of giving them other referrals to other NAPFA members. Offer to search for answers and offer additional resources. This kind of goes in with the NAPFA part of this. But if you're sitting there and somebody says, let's say you just finished up a presentation about retirement planning. So he says, how do I find a financial advisor? It's a big question, right? I would touch on it a little bit and say, you know what you should do? Go to the NAPFA website and download the Pursuit of a Financial Advisor Field Guide. It's free. Just go right on the website, you download it as a PDF, it'll tell you everything you need to know. You're giving them a way to get additional resources. If they've got a question about Social Security, and you happen to have known about a little piece of the Social Security Administration website that actually has like a calculator or something, recommend that they go there. The NAPFA Consumer Education Foundation is actually planning on launching a new website which is actually designed to actually do this, where people can go and say, oh, this is where I am in my life stage, and here are the various tools that are available through the web that I can access. So eventually you're going to have that tool at your disposal. You can say, hey, go to xyandz.com. You'll find all the information you need to know about X. So obviously that's in the development stages at this point. Leaving your mark, forging a long-term relationship. Again, I keep saying this when it comes to media. Just because you did an interview doesn't mean your relationship stops there. It's one thing to be a source. They're always quoting sources. It's another thing to be a resource. This is somebody that a reporter can go to every single time they've got a question about a topic. I know that Peggy's the expert. I got to go to Peggy. She's the first person they call. It's the same thing with you guys. Let's say Ted does a presentation at a labor union, and it's all about their 401k plan or whatever. You know what? We want that labor union. We want that local chapter. Local chapter is a local. It's a local, not local chapter. Let's say we want that local to call Ted back up and say, hey, we want you to come back next month to do another one for another group of members. We want you guys to be on speed dial for your topic area. Thank the audience. Thank them. Go up to the people that you met before the presentation and just take a minute just to shake their hand and say, hey, thanks for coming out. I'd love to hear from you. If you're ever interested in giving some feedback, that's the other thing. Ask for feedback. If they say, yeah, I've actually got some thoughts about part of your presentation, say, here, let me give you my card. We don't want you guys necessarily pushing yourselves and pushing your talents and your abilities in the slides. But afterward, if somebody's got a question, somebody's willing to give you feedback, by all means, give them a card. Say, hey, look, I'd love to hear your feedback. Remember to follow up on questions. If you commit to somebody, say, hey, I'll get that answer to you, make sure you do it. You don't want somebody from the local Rotary going to the other and say, this guy told me he was going to get me an answer to my question. He never got back to me. It makes you look flaky. And then, in return, it makes NAPFA look flaky. Thank you note to host sponsor, go old school. How many of you still write handwritten notes to people? Do it. Do it. It's easy to send an email. But it's also easy for that email to get lost in the inbox with 9,000 other emails. Write a simple little thank you note. I recommend everyone does that after you do an interview with a reporter. Just take some time, sit down with some paper, say, hey, thanks for taking the time to interview me with X, Y, and Z. Slap it in the mail with your business card. I get calls all the time from reporters who say, hey, I just got a little note in the mail from... They never get these things. You can stand out. Go old school. Send a thank you note to the hosts, to the sponsors, whoever brought you in, thanking them. Ask the audience for feedback through email as well. Talked about that. Ask the host for an evaluation. I don't want to step on toes. I know you guys talked about evaluations and so on, so I can let Barb and Karen talk about that again if they need to. Do your own self-evaluation. Again, just because you might say, hey, that was a great presentation, I don't need to change. There's always something you can change. There's always something you can work on. So do a little self-evaluation. Ask yourself if you just jot down a couple of questions. How was my presentation style? Did I erase? Did I do this? Did I do? Come up with a kind of a checklist of things, of notes, and always go back and refer to that before your next presentation. And then think about how you can change things to perfect it, to make it better. Leverage the good, and then obviously working on the bad. All right, leveraging and representing NAPFA. Obviously, this is a great opportunity for all of you to get your names out there, but this is a great opportunity for NAPFA to further get the word out about about what NAPFA is. So remember, you're kind of, not to steal a line from the Financial Planning Association, but you guys really are not the heart of financial planning. You're the heart of NAPFA. You guys are what NAPFA is all about. It's the passionate financial planners in this room. So you guys are really at the center. Then you got your business. You're going out there, you're representing yourself, but let's say you work for a larger firm, and you go out there and you do your presentation, and it goes over not so well. Remember, you're also representing your employer. You're also representing your NAPFA affiliation. From a bigger scale, then you're also representing your profession. We want to sit there and say that NAPFA is the standard bearer for, NAPFA is the standard bearer for the profession. Let's actually elevate the profession. Let's actually be good representatives of the profession. There's a lot of stockbrokers out there who'd love to have the same opportunities to go out there and speak in public. You guys are going to have those opportunities. So let's make sure that you're all seen in a positive light. The NAPFA brand, the NAPFA brand's strong. It's really strong right now. From a national standpoint, we get a lot of good press. Who here has seen some of the recent things from Clark Howard? I mean, I've been tweeting it, Facebooking it, and everything else to the members. There's some great content that's been coming out. That's on a national level. But it's really at the local level, and this is why I love the idea of the Speakers Bureau. This is an opportunity for us to penetrate those local markets and get the Columbus Dispatch and the Cleveland Plain Dealer and the Detroit Free Press and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, all these other papers to start thinking about NAPFA, start thinking about fee-only planning. So you guys, I use this line all the time at the NAPFA, you guys are the foot soldiers of our mission. I mean, we've got a big mission here, and you guys are the ones out there beating the drum. So this is, just a way that we can go out there and make sure people are hearing that drumbeat. Speaking obviously helps elevate the brand new brand for the future. It's encompassed in our messages, which is our verbal brand. We've got new logo mark and signatures, fonts, and colors. So the NAPFA messages, and this is going to be really important. This logo mark is a major piece of the brand. The next 10 years are going to be encompassed in what you see here: the power of trust, standard bearer for the profession, champion for the public, beacon for objective financial advisors. And the vision statement that you can actually find online, it's on the NAPFA homepage. We've got a little video presentation of it. We've got Susan John's speech from National. I really do recommend that you guys just kind of familiarize yourself with it, because there's key phrases and key statements in there that you can try to kind of communicate indirectly. You don't necessarily have to bang it down people's throats during the presentation, but just when you're asked a question about, well, what is NAPFA? See, this is over, you've got kind of some sound bites to use. So definitely try to familiarize yourself with it. I did want to kind of point this out here because, again, this is our new NAPFA logo. Well, actually, this is the Power of Trust logo. We actually have a new logo that's out, which is much like this, but instead it has the name of the organization written out. That's it. Thank you very much for pointing it out, Chris. got too close to the screen and lost it. You have the signature. The signature is your overall logo. All right? Your logo is actually the icon, the logo mark, but this is the overall signature of the organization. You got the logo mark, which is the icon. It represents our basic message. Then you got the tagline, which kind of wraps it all up. So this is the element of our signature. Then you got the NAPFA visuals. These are some of the other marks. And these things, and I just want a little commercial here. All of these logos this next week, as well as kind of a suite of marketing collateral, is being made available to all the members. So you guys can start implementing the power of trust new logo in your own businesses. If you guys currently have the old NAPFA logo or the old NAPFA logo or anything on your marketing collateral, on your websites, I don't expect you guys to go out and completely redo your marketing collateral. But at least on your website, let's start taking down the old logo and let's start putting the new one up. And we're going to make available to you the NAPFA Power of Trust logo as well as the new one, the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. The NAPFA Registered Financial Advisor, again, just trying to keep the brand consistent across everything. You guys like this better than the old swoosh?
Oh, my God.
Night and day, I think. Working NAPFA into presentations. Keep the messages in mind at all times. Reference NAPFA resources. This is an opportunity to kind of plug it, again, indirectly. And I think you should really try to do it during the Q&A portion. Don't try to force it down their throats during the actual presentation. The Pursue the Financial Advisor Field Guide, the Financial Planner Diagnostic and Checklist, these are really popular. People love these things. So encourage that they use those things to actually check out advisors. Consumer webinars, we have one more left on our schedule, but we are kicking the tires and maybe trying to reestablish the program, maybe in partnership with a large media outlet. So we actually have a media blitz coming up in New York in about a week and a half. And so that's a topic of conversation with one of them. But consumer webinars, find an advisor. And you don't have to say, hey, you can give me a call. Say, you know what, do your homework. Identify 3 advisors in your area who you want to talk to. Give them a call and download the diagnostic and the checklist and have them fill those out. Just say you can go to NAT, you can go to Find an Advisor, go to Columbus, and click on the ones that you're interested in and make contact with them. Really, I mean, those are great tools. And again, you can kind of come across as not being self-serving, but saying this is just a resource that's there for you. Fee only, fiduciary, client-centered. I actually like the idea of saying client-centered, not fiduciary, the F word. No offense to who's ever putting that presentation together. Doug. Objectivity, comprehensive, and so on. The idea is that all of this really kind of comes into this message about champion for the public. That's what this organization is. It really is the champion for the public. And the desired result of all of this is greater understanding of who NAPFA is, greater awareness of fee-only planning. Our friends like Clark Howard and Gene Chatsky and some of these others, they're going to constantly be beating the drum. But if we really want to make this impactful at the local level, it's really you guys that we're going to have to kind of rely on. Greater awareness of financial planning. I mean, that's a big issue. People don't even know what the hell financial planning is. They think they go to a stockbroker, they get some advice on the latest, great investment. That's my financial plan. I've got it all worked out. More traffic for NAPFA, more traffic for all of you, personal recognition within your respective communities. Everybody wants that. All of you want to be recognized. And then personal brand growth. You all have your own brands. It just may not be as built up as the next advisor. This is your opportunity to start building your own personal brand. And real quick, part 4, marketing the Speakers Bureau. Your regional effort, the region is going to coordinate the actual program. It's going to recruit city coordinators and build the library, the library of content. At the local level, city coordinators are going to spearhead local markets. By all means, Barb and Karen, if I am butchering this, throw it out there, correct me. Work with other members, the speakers, identify market opportunities. You guys are all probably wondering, all right, this is all well and good. We're going to have these great presentations. We're going to be able to go out there and speak. How the hell are we going to let people know about this? Civic organizations, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, Knights of Columbus, whatever, all these different civic organizations, reach out to them. Religious organizations, churches, I know that sometimes for some people that may not be great, but for others, there's an opportunity there. Businesses, a lot of businesses that have retirement plans might be trying to educate their employees about their retirement plan. What the hell, why not? Let's reach out to some of those businesses, as well as chambers of commerce. City and county initiatives. Reach out to the local city. Reach out to the county and say, let's put together a county-wide financial literacy program. we can supply speakers, we can do all that stuff, we can help you guys with the promotion, everything else. I think you'd probably be pleasantly surprised by the number of local municipalities that would be interested in doing something like that. I mean, especially right now. Communicate with media, send releases, do interviews, invite the media to your presentation. What's the harm? Especially if you have read something in the Columbus Dispatch. There's an article about retirement planning. You happen to be giving a presentation about retirement planning. Invite that reporter. Say, hey, you know, you might get some really good ideas for future stories from this presentation. Get them in the room. Let them see your expertise. Let them write about the fact that they got this from a NAPFA Midwest Speakers Bureau presentation. Just free publicity. NAPFA support. We're going to constantly be looking at ways to create promotional materials for you to use in your local markets. Some of the things I'm going to show you, they're available right now. But, you know, like things like this best practices deal that I want to put together. That is one of the ways that we want to try to help you. If you guys can become better speakers, we want to figure out what that's going to be and provide it. Provide space on the website. This is all to be determined. As many of you know, we have a new website that's going to probably be launched in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe, I'm hoping. It's kind of being pushed back a little bit. But the new website's going to be great, and it's going to have a consumer front homepage. It's purely consumer oriented. So we want to try to figure out a creative way to make the Speakers Bureau pop out on that. Develop media lists. Where are the city coordinators again? Raise your hands, raise your hands, raise your hands. If you guys need to know, hey, what are the media outlets and who are the key contacts, give me a call, let me know what you're working on. I'll be happy to develop a media list for you and send it out. So I'm happy to help provide that support. It takes me 5 seconds to create these lists. Some materials are already available, and here's some of them. Again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep true to the new brand. So the color blue is going to be playing a prominent role because that's representative of Champion for the Public. So these are 2 different flyers, and we're going to leave it up to you guys to decide which one you want to use. They're both available to you. What we're going to do is, and they're all going to be specially tailored. So these actually right here were written for Barb. So let's say, you know, Doug, whoever, you guys are going to be working on a presentation. You guys are going to be working on, you know, sending out some collateral to a certain organization. You let me know. I'll put all the city coordinator information there, send it to you as a PDF. You can print it off if you do what you want. Or if NAPFA's agreed to send materials out, Karen will kind of help spearhead that. But I'll get the materials together in a way that is going to be helpful to you. So these are 2 different flyers. We have a press release. This is a template release. Where you see red is where you fill in the blanks. Very easy stuff. It's actually a 2-page release. Touches on the different kinds of topics, talks a little bit about why the organization is doing this, about the need to educate the public, about Champion for the Public. It's just very easy. You can take the release, and then I'll give you a media list. You just let me know when and where you need the media list. We'll send it over to you. You can take it and blast it out. This hard copy version is really much more for fax. Yes, there are still some newsrooms that will actually say they want a fax. And in the media list I can provide, I can mention how they want to receive press releases. So if it's email, it'll say email. If it's fax, it'll say fax. If it's snail mail, very few still do that, it'll indicate that. So you can just determine. So if it's an email, basically get the copy, stick it in your email, directly into your email, don't attach the release, fill in the blanks, and then blast it out. Very easy stuff. We have a template promotion letter. This, again, is just fill in the blanks. And you'll actually see where it says phone and email and the first name, last name, all that stuff. You can do your own little mail merge. Get a list of all the various civic organizations in your community. Do a mail merge, take it, and blast it out. It's very easy stuff. We're trying to make this as cookie cutter as possible for all of you. All right, and we're going to take some of your questions. But again, I just want to mention that we have these little pieces of material right now. We're going to constantly be building on this. My personal hope is that this is going to extend well outside the boundaries of the Midwest region, and this is going to become a national initiative.